All right, getting ready for another deep dive, and this time we're taking you straight to Singapore.
Sounds exciting. I've been looking forward to this one. Lots of people dreaming of living in Singapore, right?
Yeah, it's a popular spot, and one of the biggest decisions for families moving there is figuring out where to live.
Absolutely. You want the right neighborhood, the right vibe for your family.
Exactly. And today we're going deep into just that Singapore neighborhoods. We've got articles, online guides, forum posts from expats.
So we're getting the inside scoop, huh?
Yeah, the real deal. From what I'm seeing, Singapore has a lot to offer, from the heart of the city to some more laid-back, quieter areas. Should we jump right in and see what we've got?
Let's do it. Where are we starting?
Well, I might as well start with the most well-known Central Orchard. The heartbeat of Singapore, that's how it's described in one of these articles, a shopper's paradise.
Orchard Road. Yeah, I mean, who hasn't heard of Orchard Road?
Endless malls, apparently, and a really vibrant energy, a bit much for me personally, but I can see the appeal.
Yeah. It's definitely a sensory overload. You've got those high-end designer boutiques, but also local shops, and the food scene there is incredible. Oh my goodness, you could spend weeks just trying all the different cuisines.
I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. But focusing back on families, one thing that keeps popping up is Eaton House, the international school in Orchard. Seems like a big draw for expats.
Yeah. Eaton House, it's known for its, what do they call it, holistic approach to education.
Right. And a lot of expat families are looking for that, a well-rounded experience for their kids.
For sure.
But I've got to say, living in the middle of all those malls and that constant buzz, doesn't that feel a bit intense? Like, wouldn't you want to escape the city sometimes?
Well, actually, Orchard has some surprisingly close green spaces. You've got the Singapore River right there, and Fort Canning Park is within walking distance.
Oh, so you can get a bit of nature without going too far.
Exactly.
That's good to know. Plus, it's well connected, right? The MRT, buses.
Oh, yeah. Super easy to get around.
Yeah.
Excellent public transport.
I can see why it's so popular, even if it's not my personal style.
All right. What about something with a completely different vibe?
Okay, I'm intrigued. What do we got?
Holland Village, Holland V. This one's described as a blend of bohemian charm and modern amenities.
Oh, interesting. Kind of like a little Europe in the middle of Singapore.
Yeah, that's the feeling I'm getting. Lots of quaint boutiques, European-style cafes. I see Baker and Cook mentioned a lot.
I love that place.
But then you also have those bustling hawker centers right there, too. It's that mix that seems to draw people in.
Yeah, you can get your like your fancy artisanal coffee and then your authentic Singaporean noodles all in the same afternoon.
Sounds like a good day to me. And one thing that really stands out is the proximity to the Singapore Botanic Gardens.
Oh yeah, that's a huge plus. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site for a reason. You can have a picnic, go for a walk, just incredible.
It's like having this incredible green space right on your doorstep. Exactly. And practically speaking, there are also some excellent international schools nearby. You've got the United World College, Tanglin Trust School.
So you're not sacrificing convenience for that unique atmosphere.
Not at all. And it's well connected, too. The Circle Line MRT runs right through there.
Okay, I'm starting to get why people love Singapore, so much variety. What's next on our list?
All right, let's head to the coast. East Coast. It's all about outdoor living here. East Coast Park is the big draw.
Oh yeah, I see that in a lot of these guides. What is it exactly?
Beaches, cycling paths, playgrounds. It's like a massive park right by the sea. They even have barbecue pits.
Perfect for families who love spending time outdoors. Sounds like a dream. Weekend bike rides along the coast, picnics by the sea.
Exactly. And what's interesting here is the East Coast is generally more affordable than other areas, especially for families who want more space.
Oh, really? Like what kind of difference are we talking about?
Well, some of the sources mention that you can find, say, a 3-bedroom landed property, a house with a garden, for around $6,000 to $8,000 a month.
Okay, that's significantly less than what you'd find in, say, Orchard or Holland Village.
Definitely. And you're close to Changi Airport, which is great if you travel a lot.
I was just going to ask about that. I mean, is it too far from everything else?
Not really. You've got the Thompson East Coast MRT line, and actually East Coast itself has a lot to offer: good schools, restaurants, bars. It's a pretty well-rounded community.
So you're not sacrificing convenience for that coastal lifestyle.
Exactly.
All right, I'm adding East Coast to my list. Now, we've got a neighborhood that's a bit further out, Woodlands.
Woodlands. Okay, tell me more.
This one seems to be popular with those who really love nature and who prefer a slower pace of life.
Sounds peaceful.
Right. Admiralty Park is mentioned a lot with its mangrove boardwalks and hiking trails.
It does sound nice.
But wouldn't it be a bit difficult living so far from the city center?
Well, it depends what you're looking for, right? Woodlands has its own kind of charm. You can often find more spacious landed properties there with gardens and often at a better price than in those central areas.
True. And I remember reading that there's a large American expat community there because of the Singapore American School.
Right, that's a big one.
So even though it's a bit further out, there's still a strong sense of community.
Exactly.
Okay, Woodlands, definitely worth considering. Now, for something completely different, Sentosa Cove. This is where we enter the realm of luxury.
Ooh, Sentosa Cove. All right, tell me I'm on a vacation.
Imagine waking up to the sound of the ocean with the beach right outside your door.
I can almost hear it.
Yeah, it's all about that resort lifestyle. Marinas, golf courses, spas. It's like living in a permanent vacation.
And the properties there, those are top-notch, right?
Top notch is an understatement. From what I'm seeing, we're talking luxury villas, mansions, the whole 9 yards.
Wow. But, I mean, wouldn't you feel isolated from the rest of Singapore?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely more secluded. But it's still accessible by car or monorail, and there's a regular ferry service to the mainland. Plus, you've got everything you need right there on Sentosa supermarkets, restaurants, even international schools.
So it's like a self-contained world of luxury.
Pretty much. You're trading that city buzz for tranquility and exclusivity.
Makes sense.
Now, speaking of unique neighborhoods, have you come across anything about Tiong Bahru?
Chungaru, yeah, I've been seeing that one pop up a lot. It's like the hipster haven, right?
That's the impression I'm getting. Lots of expats are drawn to that blend of old and new. You've got those beautiful Art Deco buildings, but they're housing trendy cafes, independent bookstores.
Yeah, that's so cool. The old and new world colliding. I imagine the coffee scene is fantastic there.
Oh, absolutely. Lots of artisanal coffee shops, and the food scene in general is incredible. I read that Tiong Bahru Market is a must-visit for local food.
I'm adding it to my list. And it's well connected, right? Isn't it pretty central?
Yeah, excellent bus and MRT links, so you're not sacrificing convenience for that unique atmosphere.
I like it. What else have we got?
2 more on our list. Serangoon, which seems to be gaining popularity with families.
Serangoon. Okay. What makes it stand out?
It's known for being family-friendly, laid back,
Yeah.
and it's got some great international schools. The Australian International School, the International French School.
Oh, yeah, those are big ones. A lot of families are looking for that specific curriculum.
Exactly. And it seems to have a good mix of housing, from modern condos to landed properties with gardens, and it's relatively affordable.
And did I see something about a famous food center there?
Yeah, Chump Chump Food Center. It's supposed to be a hawker paradise with all kinds of local dishes.
Okay, Serangoon is definitely going on the list to check out.
All right, last but not least, we've got Tanjong Pagar. This is the heart of the central business district.
Prime real estate. I imagine this one's popular with expats working in the city.
Absolutely. Being able to walk to work is a huge draw. Plus, you've got that unique shophouse architecture, those traditional buildings with the modern interiors.
Oh, yeah, those are beautiful. But I imagine they're pretty hard to come by, right?
Yeah, they're not easy to find, and they can be quite expensive. But definitely worth it for that authentic charm and that prime location.
I can see the appeal. So we've gone from the heart of the city to those tranquil coastal escapes. Wow, what a range.
It's amazing how much variety Singapore has to offer, even within a relatively small area. Each neighborhood has its own distinct personality. But the question is, how do you actually choose?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. We've thrown a lot of information at you.
I think it's time to break it down, figure out what really matters, and help our listener narrow down their options.
Sounds like a plan. Let's get into those nitty-gritty details.
All right, so we've had our whirlwind tour of Singapore's amazing neighborhoods. But now we've got to get down to business. How do you actually choose where to live?
Right. From those dazzling waterfront properties to charming historic districts, it's a lot to take in.
It's like having a menu with too many delicious options. You need a strategy.
Exactly. We got to figure out what you're hungry for, so to speak, what really matters most for your family in a neighborhood.
So what are the key ingredients that make a neighborhood feel like home in Singapore?
Well, first things first, we've got to talk budget. Singapore's housing market, it can be, well, let's just say it's not known for being cheap.
Yeah, I'm seeing that in some of these sources. Prices can vary a lot depending on the neighborhood and type of housing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Sentosa Cove, with those waterfront properties, that's definitely a luxury choice.
I was going to say those mansions don't come cheap. But even within a neighborhood, the type of housing you choose, a condo, a landed property with a garden, that'll make a big difference too.
Absolutely. And I do see some numbers here. In East Coast, for instance, They're saying a three-bedroom landed property could rent for somewhere between $6,000 and $8,000 a month.
Okay, so that gives us a ballpark.
Yeah, but then you look at Orchard, and similar properties there could easily be double that.
Wow, that's a big jump. So budget, it's a major factor right off the bat.
It is. And it kind of leads into the next big thing, lifestyle. Do you picture your family, I don't know, right in the thick of it? City buzz, cafes, cultural events at your doorstep? Or are you more drawn to a relaxed pace, parks, nature within easy reach?
It's all about picturing your ideal day in Singapore. Are you waking up in a high-rise apartment with a view of the skyline? Or are you opening your doors to a lush garden?
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. What are those everyday moments you envision?
Are you sipping coffee in a trendy Tiong Bahru cafe, or are you having a family picnic at East Coast Park?
I'm all for that picnic, by the way.
Me too. It's amazing how those images help you connect with what you really want.
They do. It brings those preferences to life. And even beyond specific activities, think about the vibe. Do you see yourself in a bustling cosmopolitan neighborhood? Or do you crave a quieter, more laid-back atmosphere?
Right, it's about feeling at ease in your surroundings.
Exactly. And practically speaking, think about getting around. Do you want to hop on the MRT, or would you prefer a neighborhood where you can walk or cycle to most places?
Speaking of transportation, how does Singapore's public transport system stack up compared to other big cities? I know a lot of expats rely on it, especially if they have kids.
Oh, Singapore's public transport is fantastic, efficient, clean, affordable. The MRT network is extensive, and the buses are super reliable.
But I imagine some neighborhoods might be better connected than others.
Yeah, definitely. Those further from the city center, you might need to factor in a bit more travel time.
Something to keep in mind. And of course, we can't forget about schools. For families, finding the right school is a top priority.
Absolutely. And luckily, Singapore has an incredible selection of international schools, each with its own approach and curriculum.
But it can feel overwhelming. Did any of the sources highlight specific schools in each neighborhood?
Oh yeah, quite a few. Like in Serangoon, for example, they mentioned the Australian International School and the International French School a lot.
Okay, so that's a starting point.
Yeah. And in Holland Village, you've got the United World College and Tangland Trust School.
I imagine proximity to the school is a big consideration, especially for younger kids who can't navigate public transport alone.
Oh, absolutely.
hmm
You want to minimize those daily commutes, make life easier for everyone.
So we've covered budget, lifestyle, transportation, schools. What else should we be thinking about?
Well, one thing that comes up a lot in these expat forums is access to nature. You know, some families really need that connection to the outdoors, whether it's a park for weekend walks or being close to the beach.
That makes sense, especially coming from listeners' home country, which I know has a lot of mentioned something specific to their current location, like parks, beaches, or mountains.
Right. And Singapore, even though it's a bustling city, has some surprisingly amazing green spaces.
Oh, yeah, for sure. East Coast Park with that long stretch of beach, woodlands with those nature reserves, I'm seeing it more and more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even Holland Village with the botanic gardens right there. It's like having a breath of fresh air in the middle of the city.
It's all about finding that balanced city, living with those pockets of tranquility. So we've got a pretty solid list of factors now. But how do we go from this big picture to something more personalized?
Right, because it's not just about what the guidebooks say. It's about what feels right for you and your family.
So how do we get there? How do we connect those gut feelings to the practical realities of choosing a neighborhood?
That's where the real work begins. We need to dig deeper, get specific, and help you create a clear roadmap.
Sounds like a plan. Ready to dive into part 3.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've talked about the neighborhoods, we've laid out the key factors, budget, lifestyle, all that good stuff. But now, how do we help you actually make a decision? How do you pick the neighborhood that's right for your family?
It's like we've given you all the ingredients, but now you need to create the recipe, you know. Figure out what you're going to cook up with them.
I love that analogy. So where do we even begin? It still feels kind of overwhelming.
Well, I think we need to go back to those gut feelings you mentioned earlier. You know, when a certain neighborhood just speaks to you, we need to make those feelings a bit more concrete.
Okay, how do we do that?
Imagine your ideal day in Singapore. What does it look like? Seriously, close your eyes and picture it. Where are you?
Okay, I'm picturing it. I'm curious what our listener is imagining right now.
Me too. What do you see? Are you waking up in a high-rise apartment overlooking the city? Or are you in a house stepping out into a garden.
And what are you doing? Are you grabbing a coffee at a trendy cafe in Tiongbaru? Or are you having a picnic with the kids at East Coast Park?
Oh, I'm feeling that picnic vibe. Sunshine, sand, kids run around.
I know, right? It's amazing how those images can help you connect with what you really want.
They really do. And it's not just about the activities themselves, but the whole atmosphere. Are you surrounded by a bustling, energetic crowd, or are you in a more peaceful, quiet setting?
I'm definitely feeling the peaceful vibes right now.
Yeah.
But everyone's different. Our listener might be craving that city energy.
Exactly. It's all about figuring out what feels right for you. And don't forget, this is a family decision. Your partner might have a completely different vision.
Oh, good point. So maybe it's time for family meeting, right? Everyone gets to share their ideal day, their must-haves in a neighborhood.
I love that idea. Get everyone involved. Kids might surprise you with what they come up with.
They might, and then you can start to see where those visions overlap, where there might be some compromises.
Exactly. Like maybe someone's willing to sacrifice a bit of space for a shorter commute, or maybe being near a park is more important than having a big yard.
Right. It's all about finding that balance, that sweet spot where everyone's happy.
Exactly. Okay, so let's say we've done all that we've visualized, we've talked as a family, we've found some common ground. What's next?
Well, now we need to bring those practical considerations back in. Remember that checklist we talked about? Budget, lifestyle, schools, transportation.
Right, because those things matter. Dreaming is great, but you got to be realistic too.
Exactly. So how do we connect those dreams to those practicalities?
I think the key is to prioritize. Out of all those factors we talked about, budget, schools, access to nature, all of that, which ones are absolutely non-negotiable for your family?
So if having top-notch international schools is a must-have, that might narrow down your options to certain neighborhoods right away.
Exactly. Or if staying within a specific budget is crucial, well, then that's got to be your top priority when you're comparing neighborhoods.
Makes sense. So you figure out your top priorities, and then you can start evaluating each neighborhood based on how well it meets those needs.
Right. It's almost like giving each neighborhood a score. Like, does it have good schools? Yes or no. Is it within our budget? Yes or no. Access to nature? Yes or no.
I like that. It brings a bit of objectivity into the decision-making process.
And by assigning those points, you might find that some neighborhoods just naturally rise to the top.
And maybe even reveal some hidden gems that you hadn't considered before.
Exactly. And remember, even within a neighborhood, there can be variations. So don't rule out a whole area just because it doesn't tick every single box.
Oh, right. Like maybe a certain part of a neighborhood has more affordable housing, or one street is closer to a park than another.
Exactly. Do a little digging. Talk to people who live there.
So we've visualized, prioritized, and now we've even scored our neighborhoods. Are we ready to make the final decision?
Almost. The last piece of the puzzle. Gather as much information as you can about those top contenders. Go back to those articles, those forum posts, those online resources.
Oh, right. We've got a whole stack of those. Time to dive back in.
Yeah, look at photos and videos, read reviews from other expats who live in those neighborhoods, see what they have to say.
And if possible, try to visit those neighborhoods in person.
Yes. Nothing beats experiencing it firsthand. Walk around, check out the shops and cafes, see if the vibe feels right.
It's one thing to see pictures online, but actually being there is a whole different story.
Totally. And, don't be shy. Connect with other expat families who live in those areas.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea.
They can give you the inside scoop. What's the community like? How easy is it to get around?
Those firsthand insights are invaluable.
They really are. All right, I think we've covered just about everything.
We've gone from those initial dreams of living in Singapore to, well, almost having a place picked out.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? And remember, choosing a neighborhood is just the first step. Once you're there, there's a whole world to explore.
So much to discover. Singapore's an incredible city.
It really is. And who knows, you might even end up falling in love with a neighborhood you never expected.
That's the beauty of it all. Well, on that note, it's time to wrap up our deep dive. We hope you've given you the tools and confidence to take the next step in your Singapore journey.
Best of luck in your search. We know you'll find that perfect spot to call home.
And no matter where you choose to settle, Singapore's an amazing place to be. Until next time, happy exploring.